Mazel tov to this little baby, parents, grandparents, Moel, everybody here. The simcha that we feel is something which is odd, to say the least. But we do this from generation to generation to generation. We make this into a joyous event because it's everlasting. Shame, shenichnas, labris, min kones, the Torah, ulachupa, ulamaasim tovim, which means as he's been entered into the covenant today, may he also enter into the next stage of his life by studying God's Torah, one day standing underneath the chuppah with his bride, and I do expect an invitation, and throughout his whole life be a mensch that performs ma'asim tovim, good deeds.
Our God and God of our ancestors, sustain this child. Let him be known among the people of Israel as Eres Chaim, son of Abraham and Rachel. May his mother be blessed with regained strength, and may both parents find joy in their child. With love and with wisdom, may they be privileged to teach him the meaning of the covenant which he has entered today, and may they inspire him to seek the truth and the ways of peace. Through their example, may his heart be open to Torah and its ways. May this child, Eres Chaim, grow into greatness as a blessing to his family, to the Jewish people, and to all humanity. As he has entered the covenant, so may he attain the blessings of Torah, Chuppah, and Ma'asim Tovim, good deeds. And let us say, Amen.
First and foremost, we would like to thank everyone for taking the time out of their busy lives to join us in celebration of our son, Caleb Green Bates, and becoming an official member of the Jewish people. Welcome to the tribe, Caleb. We would also like to thank Rabbis Rothman and Shaul for administering the ceremony, blessing our baby boy, and for not cutting too much off. Mom, Dad, Risa, and David, we would like to thank you so much for throwing this beautiful and meaningful event. Abby and I are so grateful to have you in our lives, and no, it's not just because of all the money you've spent on this event. Throughout our lives, you guys have served as role models and instilled in us great qualities along the way. You have also shown us that no matter what we do, where we go, what we think, you will possess undying love for us. This being our first child, Abby and I have encountered a lot of unknowns, challenges, and fears. While I know that everybody experiences these issues when raising a newborn, I know that very few, if any, experience the amount of love, support, and guidance we have received from our parents, as well as the rest of our family. It feels like since the very second that baby Caleb was born, there's always been family there for us whenever we needed them, someone ready to be there in case we needed them, and others waiting to be there and checking on us, even when we didn't show any signs of need, just to make sure we were doing okay. It is as if we have an army of support behind us, and this army will do everything in its power to ensure that we are constantly equipped with everything we need to succeed. It is truly an amazing and relieving feeling, and I can't express how thankful we are to all of you guys, Caleb's bubbies, Zadies, aunts, uncles, and cousins, for providing us with this sense of security. Lastly, I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Abby, for being the strongest and most loving person I know. Sorry. Abby, seeing you in the delivery room, and since you've given birth, I've learned a lot. First of all, I've witnessed how brave and strong you are. Throughout the day of delivery, you were approached with various challenges, many of which you were fearful of, but you bravely faced each and every one of them head on, no matter how scared you were. You also taught me the reason that they call the act of giving birth going into labor. You labored for an entire 14 long and sometimes painful hours, during which you were stuck with at least 7 needles, flipped into 4 different positions, and yet no matter what you did, our baby boy would not come out. Caleb was quite a stubborn guy that day, but hey, That's when I realized that he was definitely a Bates. What impresses and comforts me the most, though, is what I've witnessed in you as a mother. You continue your active labor into motherhood, being there for Caleb at all times, day or night, which is no easy task. And your love for him couldn't be more apparent. In fact, I don't think you can look at him more than 3 times without looking up at me and saying, I love him. I always knew you were going to make an amazing mother, and now you have started accomplishing that feat. I love you more than anything, and I know Caleb will grow up too as well. With that said, I would like to speak briefly on the origin of our son's name. As we all know, there is so much in a name. A name hopes to not just encapsulate what we will call him, but what we hope he aspires to become. Caleb is a compound word, something that is actually quite common in ancient Hebrew. It is comprised of kol, which means all or whole, and lev, which means heart. Therefore, Caleb actually means wholehearted. While the term wholehearted can be interpreted in many ways, literally, Caleb is depicted as being faithful, courageous. Biblically, Caleb is depicted as being faithful, courageous, passionate, and bold. From the Torah portion called Shelach, Moses sends out 12 men, one from each of the tribes, to spy out on the land of Canaan. After 40 days, they return, and all of them report that the land flows with milk and honey. 10 of the men said the land was impossible to conquer and full of giants. Caleb, however, from the tribe of Judah, interrupts his colleagues and says, we shall surely ascend and conquer it. The land is very, very good. You shall not fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed. Hashem is with us. Do not fear them, for we are well able to achieve it. So the question must be asked, how is it that Caleb saw things differently than the other spies? The difference is that when you have passionate faith in Hashem, you gain clarity, confidence, courage, and direction. We hope our Caleb will grow to be a man who is God-fearing, God-loving, and God-inspired, and that he lives a life full of passion. While researching the meaning of Caleb online, I came across a definition from another source, also widely acclaimed as being one of the most trusted sources, the Urban Dictionary. According to the Urban Dictionary, the definition of Caleb is to have a sexy body, strong biceps, ripped abs, and a nice butt. They even give examples of Caleb in sentences. For instance, one example is, look at that Caleb lifting 500 pounds. And another example, man, that guy's a hottie. He's a total Caleb. Even though it may take Caleb a little longer to get those ripped abs, I found this definition to be pretty spot on. I mean, you guys just saw this guy. While names can be symbolic of what we aspire to become, Jews also often name their children after those who came before us, remembering our relatives, the moms, dads, bubbies, zadies, pop-pops, and nanas from the past. Those who are no longer with us, but are still here in spirit. Now, as some of you know, Abby's childhood was not the norm, and her parents were taken from her at a very young age. We felt it was most fitting for our son's middle name to be Green, to honor her biological parents, whose last name was Greenberg. Further honoring our relatives, we have selected Erez as Caleb's Hebrew name, meaning cedar tree. The thought process was that Abby's and my ancestors are the roots of our family tree, and that they have provided us with life, which we in turn have now helped our family tree grow. We choose the cedar tree because of the biblical significance as being the strongest type of tree. It was used in the building of both the first and second temples, and it also symbolizes the tallest tree. The tree can be thought of as telling stories of your shared roots, which link you to the past, showing your connected struggles and aspirations, and your desires to reach for the light. Caleb, may you be like the cedar tree, rooted firmly in the past and reaching for the light and the future.
Rabbi, grandparents, my lovely wife, family, and friends. According to an American Indian tribal belief, a woman's chance of giving birth to twins is enhanced according to what kind of animal pelt that she sits on during pregnancy. Now, 3 American women get pregnant about the same time, and they all decide to sit together in a triangular shape in their wigwam. The first woman, the first Indian woman, chooses to sit on a hippopotamus. The second woman sits on the pelt of a cow, and the third sat on the pelt of a buffalo. 9 months later, all three women gave birth, but the woman who was on the hippopotamus gave birth to twins, and the others did not. This proves, once again, that in any right-angled triangle, the squaw on the hippopotamus is equal to the sum of the squaws on the other two sides. Now, I fear that someone here might not fully understand what I just said because you need a working knowledge of grade 7 geometry. But my grandson Xander, where's Xander? There he is. He's the wisest and eldest of my grandson, is prepared to go over the Pythagoras theory with you at lunchtime. Now, child rearing can be very difficult, as Abby and Eric are just now finding out. But fortunately, they have some brothers and sisters and brothers who are very experienced in matters and who have been helpful and will continue to be helpful. But there's a lot to learn about child rearing. But I would also suggest there's also a lot to be learned from studying animals and even birds. Now, Risa and I were recently at the Jurong Bird Park in Singapore. And at the park, we saw lots of beautiful birds. But the bird that got my attention the most was the emu. Now, I was interested in the emu perhaps because I had an uncle who was in the wool importing business, and his business was called Emu Yarn, Uncle Sam Kurtzer. And so I went over to find out about the emu, and I found out, first of all, that the emu is not a source of wool, and therefore the name of my uncle's business, Emu Yarn, was just another one of my Uncle Sam's yarns. But more importantly, I learned that it was the male emu who makes the nest. It is the female emu who lays the eggs. But it's the male emu who sits on the eggs. And when the emu sits on them, he sits on them for 8 weeks. And during that period of time, he does not eat, he does not drink, he does not defecate. Meanwhile, the female emu takes off to mate with other males. When the chicks arrive, it is the male emu that nurtures the chicks, and he does so until they're all mature and able to go on their own, unless they choose to go on to college. And then the male emu continues to look after them for another 4 years. So you can see that the female emu does not make a very good role model, but the male emu makes a wonderful dad, and that is no yarn. Now, having just got back from Southeast Asia, Risa and I happened to be there on February the 8th, which was the Chinese New Year. And I learned, because the New Year is celebrated for a week before and a week after, Risa and I got to observe the festivities in 3 different countries. We saw it in Vietnam, we saw it in Singapore and Cambodia. And we had a chance to learn a little bit about the Chinese calendar, which is based on the lunar astrological calendar. And we learned that each year in the calendar was represented by a different animal. And the cycle repeated every 12 years. And the concept is that when you're born under the name of a certain animal, that somehow, by some mythological way, you acquire the trait of that animal. Now, I learned when I was in Singapore that I was born in the year of the rat. That was 1948. And because it's in cycles 12 years, the year of the rat would come up in 1948, 1960, 72, 84, 96, 2008. Are there any other rats in the room? At least I thought so. Risa was born in the year of the tiger, which helps to explain a lot of things. Now, last year was the year of the sheep. This was the year of the monkey. It was the year of the monkey. Now, people were very, very excited about the year of the monkey because the monkey, if you had a child who was born in the year of the monkey, they would likely become very mischievous, curious. They would be fast learners, innovative, and they would be very, very intelligent. But the monkey also represents good luck and prosperity, something that is deficient in Southeast Asia. So if the Chinese are right, and when are they ever wrong, at least a billion of them don't seem to think they're ever wrong, our little boy should grow up to be prosperous, and hopefully he'll do good business and not too much monkey business. Now, Reese and I also found ourselves recently at the Marina Bay Sands Hotel in Singapore. Now, we got there with the help of Jason Luton, who's here somewhere. There's Jason over there, who somehow was able to convince Sheldon Adelson's secretary that Reese and I were mishpucha, we were family. And by doing so, we got the family rate, which was very inviting. So there we were on the 56th floor of the hotel. The swimming pool's there. There's a huge infinity pool that connects the 3 towers of the hotel. And we had a magnificent view of Singapore. And in the pool were a lot of young Asian women who all had iPhones on extension poles. And they were taking non-stop photos of themselves, selfies. Now, I assume that these women did not have any children, because if they had any children, the direction of their gaze, the object of their attention would not only been towards themselves. But when a couple has their first child, they may have the same job, the same house, the same food in the fridge, but with one deep, critical breath, the direction of their gaze, the object of their intention, their world suddenly and irrevocably changes, and changes for the better. There is little doubt, Abby and Eric, that you will have a major influence on this little boy. And unless you choose to reside on the edge of a cliff, we do not expect that the apple will fall too far from the tree. And if you do your job right, your son will be wealthier, healthier, wiser, kinder, and more loved than if he had been dropped off at somebody else's doorstep. Although sometimes, under exceptional circumstances, a child can be dropped off at someone else's doorstep, and things can turn out just fine. The real question is, what will this little guy do to you? That's the real question. For this little boy, all 9 pounds of him, has bestowed on you the most distinguished title, Mom and Dad. We know that you will cherish that title, because though it comes with great responsibility, it comes with a joy that cannot be adequately described, just experience. So on behalf of the Feinstein, the Bates, the Greenberg family, we welcome in our new grandson, our new cousin, our new nephew, our new member of the tribe of Judah, and to our best hope for a better world. We wish you, Abby and Eric, good luck, patience, and strength, so that you can hold on to your son with strong and tight, because the roller coaster ride has just begun. So please join with me in our traditional prayer, the Shachianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shachianu v'kimanu v'hagyon lezman hazeh. Blessed are you, our Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, who has sustained us, and who has enabled us to reach this most joyous moment. Mazel tov. Amen.
I've only recently gotten to know you, but both of you have extraordinary characteristics: kindness, strength, resilience, and closeness. That the two of you are close to each other, but you also have a very, very close family, so many of whom are with you today. And the idea of closeness is a very important one in the Jewish tradition. In fact, we read about it this week in this week's Parshat Vayikra, in which we talk about how it is that we become close to God. And the answer that the Torah gives us is that we offer something called a korban, or a sacrifice. And the root of that word is kuf resh bet, which means to come close. Of course, we no longer offer sacrifices. What do we do instead? If we want to be close to God, we pray. And you brought that desire to be close to a real, to existence by going to the land of Israel, and for a desire to become closer as a couple and as closer to Jewish people. And it was at the spot where we are closest to God, the western wall, the western retaining wall, where the temple once stood, where you prayed for this child. And it was in Israel where that prayer began to come true. So I want to offer you a reminder of the fact that as long as you stay close to each other and close to your family, that you will also find a way of coming close to God. And that when you do that, not always, but a good amount of the time, you give yourselves the power to make your prayers come true. And I know that that is an ability and a power that you will continue to teach your son. And he also has the power to bless and to pray. And it is with that I want to invite him back one more time. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasein lecha shalom. Caleb, Eres Chaim, may Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai show you favor and be gracious to you. May Adonai show you kindness. May you be blessed to live a long, beautiful life surrounded by the love of your family and friends. May you be worthy to study Torah, to enter under the wedding canopy, and may God be with you always. And let us all say, Amen. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov. Yehei lanu, yehei lanu, yehei lanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehei lanu, yehei lanu, ulechol Yisrael. David melech Yisrael, Chai v'kayam. David melech Yisrael, Chai v'kayam. No simcha would be complete without food among us Jews. So I want to invite up Chase, Justin, Jared, Dave, Xander, and Jay to help us get to the food by making a blessing on the challah. Amen. Mazel tov.